Zach Moore podcast. I think this is the 20th. I think we might be up to 20 episodes. Um, so we're about a fifth of the way to 100 episodes, which is going to be a big milestone, but I gotta be more consistent with doing these. But as you'll see today, there's a lot of different topics that I want to touch on and address. And as you'll see, this will probably be a relatively longer one, probably compared to some of my other podcasts that I have done, some being 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. I hope that this is going to be a long one because we're going to get into a lot of topics. There's a lot of stuff that I've been doing since the last podcast to prepare for this one. So without further ado, I do want to start on something that I saw multiple weeks ago that really piqued my interest. And I thought I would just kind of right out the gate start with this, and then we'll go from there. Compound discovered by a Mexican in Octopus Inc. that could cure cancer. This is the mazatlanweekly.com. Octopus byproducts Octopus vulgaris. The search for extracts or compounds of octopus byproducts Octopus vulgaris. Mexican Martin Samuel Hernandez Zezueta stumbled upon what could be the cure of various types of cancers. Doctor of Science by University of Sonora. Main objective, basically, was to find extracts or compounds. It occurred to me that the octopus ink, a byproduct resulting from a defense mechanism, could have beneficial compounds for health, he highlighted. Obviously, in a defensive mode, it could potentially put out defensive chemicals to sell to help save itself. It continues. Hernandez Zezueta added that the first results showed that octopus ink has antioxidant activity, which tested whether they had an effect on any chronic degenerative disease. And as you can see, currently the research pathway must go through several procedures. One of them, laboratory synthesis, to be tested in cancer patients and discover if it has more benefits than what it is known for. Until now, it is not known how long the developments of this possible cure against cancer will take. However, Martin Hernandez Azueta pointed out that it will depend on the resources and financing to promote this interesting discovery. Originally posted in The Son of Hermosillo. And I'm not going to click on that because it's all in Spanish. And then I'll just have to spend time Google translating it. But that is the original article. Here is our next article. And right off the bat, let's go look. Astronomers puzzled from a cosmic explosion. Astronomers said on Friday they have identified the largest cosmic explosion ever observed. Okay. They emphasized that more research was needed to understand the puzzling phenomenon. The explosion, called AT201 LWX, is not the brightest flash ever observed in the universe. That record is still held by a gamma ray burst in October that was nicknamed BOAT for brightest of all time. Considered the largest explosion because it had released far more energy over the last 3 years than produced by the boat's brief flash. That's the difference. It was only when astronomers looked at it through more powerful telescopes that they realized what they had on their hands. By analyzing different wavelengths of light, they worked out that the explosion was roughly 8 billion years away. That is much further away than most other new flashes of light in the sky, which means the explosion behind it must be far greater. Here's the size of this thing too as well. It is estimated to be about 2 trillion times brighter than the sun. There are possible explanations for this as well. One is that this thing, AT 202 LWX, is an exploding star, but the flash is 10 times brighter than any previously seen supernova, which is something that I talked on last podcast. Basically, when a big body star blows up, it's big enough and its core is big enough to create higher elements that get expelled outwards into space. And many of those certain elements are in our bodies and are helpful in us living on this planet, which is crazy to think about. I'm sitting right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on planet Earth in what we would call, in our timeline, 2023, right? If there's a civilization that was, say, 200 million years before us, what what would their time be? Like their time would still be 2023 in their time, but according to us, it'd be 200 whatever million years ago. Interesting to think about because life as we know it on this planet, and as I go later, there are other stories that I think are going to be interesting in terms of life on other planets. Anyways, another possibility is what is called a tidal disruption event, when a star is torn apart as it is sucked into a supermassive black hole. However, this thing is still 3 times brighter than those events. And a scientist said their research did not point in this direction. Also, quasars, somewhat comparable. And a quasar is when a supermassive black hole swallows huge amounts of gas in the center of galaxies, but those tend to flicker in brightness. And since this object started flaring up 3 years ago, it still is just as bright. So, while absolute puzzle. Now astronomers know what to look for. They are searching the skies to see if similar explosions have been missed. So, one quick point here. Similar. What is this last quote? They are searching the skies to see if other similar explosions have been missed. One point I want to make on this, and then I'll move on. As we know it is kind of how the science of the cosmos is right now, where you look at what's out there in the universe and you only have the information that you have. Like there's nothing definitive. We could find a star that's 250 million light years away, that because the telescope that was looking in that certain area, and there's only a finite amount of telescopes, and there's a lot of people who want to use those telescopes. So some people just by luck of the draw, they say, hey, I want to look at this part of the sky. And sometimes the thing that they're not trying to find is something in the other corner. Like in this past article, this thing was something that was years old, had been viewed multiple years ago, and a couple years later, it's found. If you remember, I've talked about the volcanoes on Venus. I believe I talked about that. There was volcanoes found on Venus, and it was a college student in his class who saw his teacher giving a lecture, and then I think he was doing an assignment, and through doing his assignment, he was able to figure out that there were actually volcanoes and volcanic activity on Venus. So when it comes to the outer space that we know, sometimes it's just that we're not looking in the right place. And sometimes when you're upset or sad, you try and not look in the right place. Or you're looking, but it's not in the right place. Universal. Scientists capture first image of jet erupting from the brink of a black hole. This is one that you're going to want to watch. You're on YouTube or Rumble or Spotify. All right. Also, drinks. I know I have not been in the recent episodes, have not been taking my like picture with like the drink that I'm drinking right then and there. Sometimes it's because I try and do these without drinking, but for today I do have, and I thought about having just regular water, but I do want to shout this out. Ready protein water. Now, this flavor is orange mango. I got it from the Dollar Tree. It's nearby where I live. You have Carmela walking around, so I'm just looking at her. But this Ready protein water, 70 calories, 0 grams of fat, 1 gram of carbs, 15 grams of protein, 118 milligrams, 10% of your calcium, 91 milligrams of potassium, 2% magnesium, 30 milligrams, 8% chloride, 7 milligrams. This stuff is good. You can drink it just like water. And I find that because it's so thin and there's not that much to it, you can get it down a lot easier. It still has a little bit of that chalky taste, but I mean, I got one of these for $1.25. So it's a really good value for 15 grams of protein, 70 calories. Super easy to do. But enough about water. It's a good product, though. I do recommend you get it. Scientists capture first image of a jet erupting from the brink of a black hole. You'll want to watch this one, as I said. New images of the most photogenic pit of darkness. Interesting start. Are providing insight into a mysterious black hole behavior. For the first time, we are looking at the source of a colossal jet of plasma blasting into space from the edge of the supermassive black hole M87. Pretty sure I've talked about this on the show. This thing is massive. It's also the first time we've seen the shadow of a black hole and its jet together in the same image, a view that should help astronomers figure out how these giant streams of plasma are generated. Here it is right here. The new image revealing the jet generation as well as the shadow and ring around the black hole. We know that jets are ejected from the region surrounding black holes, but we do not fully understand how this actually happens. To study this directly, we need to observe the region of the jet as close as possible to the black hole. Black holes, as we all know, are famous for not emitting anything we can detect. There is a region of extremes. Any material nearby is caught in its snare. And this is around the event horizon. Once you get past that you cannot return because gravity becomes infinite and not even light can escape from that. And that's why it's called a black hole. Friction and gravity heat this material, causing it to glow. It's spinning around super, super, super fast. And that is what you saw in the now famous image of the M87 released, which is, of my lifetime, one of the coolest days of my life, because at the time I was super into space and I was still in college and I was really into black holes because at the time I was in class and learning about black holes and stuff. And so when that was discovered, that was the first image of a black hole. And it proved a lot about what Albert Einstein had to say. But moving on. All right. We know that. Yes. And then you can look at the picture right here, diagram illustrating the structure associated with an active black hole. You'll see around it, all this matter is going right here, and this is what it would probably look like most likely in that jet, I believe, is gamma rays. The original Event Horizon Telescope imaging revealed only a portion of the accretion disk surrounding the center of the black hole. By changing the observing wavelengths to 1.3 millimeters to 3.5, we can see more of the accretion disk and now the jet at the same time. This revealed that the ring around the black hole is 50% larger than we previously believed. The new image also revealed new information about how the jet is launched from the region of space around the black hole, affirming magnetic field lines do indeed play a critical role in whisking material away to be launched as jets. But they don't act alone. A powerful wind emanates from the disk itself, powered by radiation pressure. Interesting. I would say big breakthrough in black hole science. Published in Nature. So, hopefully there will be more information coming out of M87 since there's already been so many discoveries, and I hope in my lifetime we have a better understanding by the time I'm old about black holes, and maybe they'll send a probe to one. I don't think it'll get there in my lifetime, but maybe in my bloodline's timeline in the span of thousands of years, if humans are still around, which I hope. I hope so. We may have just detected an elusive ocean world orbiting a sun-like star. ScienceAlert.com. If you don't know by now or haven't realized it, I am very big into life, not just here on Earth, but out in the universe itself. I don't think that we're alone in this universe, and I don't have much evidence for it. My only evidence is it's happened here. That means it could happen somewhere else in the universe. Now we're extremely lucky, yeah, to be able to get to this point throughout all of evolution. Dinosaurs going. One thing I've talked about was the Permian extinction, a massive, massive extinction, which took out almost all life on Earth, and it basically reset. If that doesn't happen on another planet that we're leading up to that point, it's the same here as Earth. What does that change? There's probably an infinite number of different variables that could be tweaked and that could have significant impacts on the life on a certain planet. I don't know if there's life out there, but let's say there's only one Earth-like civilization per galaxy, right? The Milky Way galaxy is pretty big. Good amount of planets, couple. Good number, right? Now expand that to okay, one a galaxy. Okay, let's continue. How many galaxies are there? There's ones that are bigger than the Milky Way. There's ones that are smaller than the Milky Way. Andromeda is the closest galaxy to us. It will collide with the Milky Way in quite some time. But with that being said, I would have to believe that elsewhere out there in the universe, on a scale that is not even able to be understood by human mind, that there are other civilizations that are just as advanced as we are, if not more. The span of 500 to 1,000 years, if they're at our current science level. Now, many different things would would have to change because people have to discover things. People have to discover what the wheel is. People have to discover how to manipulate electricity to turn on light bulbs. A lot of these things are done, and they're not done in the same order that it was done here on Earth. I don't believe that. I believe maybe some people discovered the wheel, and then immediately after they discovered fire. I mean, I don't know. I'm not certain of which comes first in the order of discovery. I think phones, cell phones, mobile phones, landlines, probably not one of the first inventions. But I say that to say that a new rare world 245 light years away could be key to unraveling a planetary mystery. An exoplanet called TOI 733b is just under twice the radius of Earth and is orbiting a star a little smaller than the Sun with a period of 4.9 days. Measurements of its density suggest that it may either have lost its atmosphere or be an ocean-covered world. At such a close orbital proximity, heat from the star is likely to be evaporating the atmosphere, which means that in relatively short order, it could transform into a small, naked rock. The research accepted for publication in Astronomy Astrophysics is available on preprints. The first exoplanets were discovered in the 90s. At the time of writing, over 5,300 exoplanets have been discovered and confirmed, thousands more candidates. Some patterns are because the way we look for the two primary methods are transit and radial velocity. Transit method is very, very cool. That's the one that I think most people would kind of know and understand. A transit observes the faint changes in starlight when an orbiting exoplanet passes between us and the star. Meanwhile, radial velocity measurements look for the tiny changes in starlight wavelength as the star is tugged by the exoplanet's gravity. Some other patterns can't be explained by human technology. Also, one thing to mention about the transit, one thing that the James Webb Space Telescope has revealed about other exoplanets that it's already viewed is the contents of atmospheres to see if there is water. You can look at the wavelength of the light that is coming through the atmosphere and being radiated off of that planet. And you can see what wavelength of light that is and determine what the actual atmosphere or surrounding area is comprised of. So many different things that we can ascertain, I guess is the correct word, from doing the transit method. Exoplanets within the radius valley are the key to unlocking the mystery. If we can find a significant number of worlds that are undergoing this process, planetary astronomers can analyze them to try to better understand why there's such a strange gap in exoplanet sizes. Yeah, a place like we've 55,300 other planets, exoplanets. In 50 years, what's that number going to look like? In 100 years, what is that number going to look like? In 2,000 years, what is that number going to look like? We're only just at the beginning. We're just starting. Found an orbiting exoplanet in data collected by NASA's Exoplanet Hunting Telescope. Revealed the thing. This led to a measurement of 1.9 Earth radii and the Hard spectrograph measured of the star's radial velocity. Again, this can help measure the exoplanet. If you know the star's mass, then how much it is moving around as it gravitationally interacts with the exoplanet can tell you what the exoplanet's mass is. In this case, the mass was 5.72 Earth mass. As you can see, animations show how radial velocity is measured. You can see right here. It's definitely pretty cool. This is another thing I learned as well. Mass and radius can then be combined to derive density. This planet has a density of 3.98 grams per cubic centimeter. That's just a little more than the density of Mars and less than the density of Earth. Earth is 5.51 grams. Don't know what it is made of. It is possible that it is an ocean world. In this case, it would still have losses hydrogen and helium, but the atmosphere that remained would be rich in water vapor, which is more resistant to photo-evaporative processes. In this case, the exoplanet would not have experienced any significant atmospheric mass loss. Fortunately, we're going to have to wait a while for answers. We can probe the atmospheres of some transiting planets. It's a matter of studying changes in the light from the star during exoplanetary transits. Any light that passes through the atmosphere will change, and scientists can study those changes to work out the atmospheric composition. What I was talking about earlier, something that the James Webb Space Telescope has already looked at. So, interesting stuff. Cool stuff. Here is the actual exoplanet on Exoplanet Archive for NASA. If you want to go here, let's go to overview. All right, I guess I won't pull up overview, or I just do not know how to use the website. But anyways, yep, it is a confirmed planet. Go to the website, look at all this cool stuff, and here we go. Here's the actual physical paper showing this discovery. A lot of graphs. Here you can see the wavelength of light. Wavelength of light. I'm not going to even pretend to know what a single one of these is talking about or demonstrating. I just want to show the paper. A lot of different stuff. Okay, still have no idea. Now it looks like we're looking at viruses, but we are not. Still more graphs. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Moving on. Still sticking with space and the universe. The inflationary universe theory. Once again, this is something that happened a while back. Michio Kaku was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he talked about many things. One of those things is the inflationary universe theory, and I thought I would just spend like maybe a minute or so on this. The inflationary universe theory purports that the universe underwent a short and sudden expansion of great expansion right after the Big Bang. This phenomenon is called inflation and is believed to happen just 10 to 36 seconds after the Big Bang. Now, who do we go to first? While the Big Bang theory successfully explains the black body spectrum of the cosmic microwave background, so if you take and look at the cosmic microwave background radiation of the surrounding universe, something that could be hypothesized and it will be proven true by looking at the data. I won't be able to explain it good enough, but please look into cosmic microwave background. This article here, it'll do a much better job than I will try and do right now. I don't want to try, but look into the Big Bang theory being proved by the cosmic microwave background. Look that up. All right, 3 significant problems with the Big Bang theory. Flatness problem. Determine the geometry of the universe to be nearly flat. However, under Big Bang cosmology, curvature grows with time. A universe as flat as we see it today would require extreme fine-tuning of conditions. Horizon problem. Distant regions of space in opposite directions of the sky so far apart that assuming standard Big Bang expansion, they can never have been in casual contact with each other. This is because the light travel time between them exceeds the age of the universe, yet the uniformity of the cosmic microwave background temperature tells us that these regions have been in contact with each other in the past. The monopole problem. Big Bang cosmology predicts that a very large number of heavy, stable magnetic monopoles should have been produced in the early universe. However, magnetic monopoles have never been observed. So, if they exist at all, they are much more rare than the Big Bang theory predicts. The inflation theory. Developed by Alan Guth, Andre Linde, Paul Steinhardt, and Andy Albrecht, offers solutions to these problems and several other open questions in cosmology. Proposes a period of extreme rapid and exponential expansion of the universe prior to more gradual Big Bang expansion, during which time the energy density of the universe was dominated by a cosmological constant type of vacuum energy that later decayed to produce the matter and radiation that fill the universe today. Inflation was both rapid and strong. It does solve these problems by, if you look at this, the flatness problem. Imagine living on the surface of a soccer ball. Might be obvious to you that this surface was curved and that you're living on a closed universe. However, if that ball expanded to the size of the Earth, it would appear flat to you, even though it's still a sphere on larger scales. Now imagine increasing the size that ball to astronomical size. To you, it would appear as flat as you could see, even though it might be very curved to start with. Inflation stretches any initial curvature of the three-dimensional universe to near flatness. Since inflation supposes a burst of exponential expansion in the early universe, it follows that distant regions were actually much closer together prior to inflation than they would have been with only standard Big Bang expansion. Thus, such regions have been put in casual contact prior to inflation and could have attained a universal or uniform temperature, The monopole problem. Inflation allows for magnetic monopoles to exist as long as they produce prior to the period of inflation. During inflation, the density of monopoles, yeah, I'm saying that right, drops exponentially, so their abundance drops to undetectable levels. As a bonus, inflation also explains the origin of structure in the universe. Prior to inflation, the portion of the universe we can observe today was microscopic, and quantum fluctuation in the density of matter on these microscopic scales expanded to astronomical scales during inflation. Over the next several 100 million years, the higher density regions condensed into stars, galaxies, and clusters of galaxies. Cool stuff, cool stuff. So I just thought that that was something cool that he talked about. Something I didn't know about until listening to him talk about that, and I just thought it was something that I wanted to share, and I thought it was a pretty cool thing. All right. This was a pretty big article here. Star eats planet. Astronomers make unprecedented find in deep space. I don't know if I've talked about it on this channel. Well, this is my only channel. I mean, this podcast. On this podcast about the sun towards the end of its life going to extend and engulf the Earth. I might have even talked about this on the last episode. I could be wrong. Astronomers have known the fates of planets like Mercury, Venus, and Earth when their host stars are about to die, but never have observed it happening. Using the Gemini South telescope in Chile, scientists have seen the first evidence of a bloated old star absorbing an exoplanet as it puffs out during its final death throes. The event was observed in a long, low-energy outburst, the sign of a planet skimming a star's surface. In the past, astronomers have found evidence of stars that have consumed planets, sometimes by doing a sort of post-mortem autopsy of what's left of the dead star. But new research published in the journal Nature presents the first direct evidence of star eats planet as it happened. During the event, approximately 12,000 light years away from Earth in the direction of the constellation Aquila, the dying star about the size of the sun absorbed a planet up to 10 times the mass of Jupiter, according to the study. For decades, we've been able to see before and after. Before, when the planets are still orbiting very close to their star, and after, when a planet has already been engulfed and the star is giant. What we were missing was catching the star in the act, where you may have a planet undergoing this fate in real time. Scientists say they finally caught a star in the act of engulfing a planet in the end stages of its life. I don't know if that's what it'll look like, but that's a pretty cool picture. Yes, astronomers expect this for the future of the sun in about 5 billion years. So we got some time, right? We got some time. Hopefully by that point, humans are one, still alive, and two, hopefully they have moved out of the neighborhood by that time. Obviously, it would take a lot to watch a star go through this full life cycle. All right. Will the sun eat Earth? Yes, it will. This is a cool little thing. Infographic on a star engulfing a planet. Planet orbits a sun-like star that is nearing the end of its life. As the star expands, it begins to interact with the orbiting planet. The star eventually grows to entirely engulf the orbiting planet, triggering an outburst that can be detected from Earth. That's pretty sweet. The new study confirms that when a sun-like star nears the end of its life, it expands into a red giant, 100 to 1,000 times its original size, eventually overtaking nearby planets. Such events are thought to be rare, occurring only a few times each year throughout the galaxy. The outburst caused by the star lasted about 100 days. So, the star lasted a little, a planet lasted a little bit, but in the end, it was not enough. Did the JWST find water on a rocky exoplanet? Hints of water vapor on a world called GJ486b could just as well come from the planet's host star. So, again, another story about life, possibility. Peering at a rock 26 light years away, the James Webb Space Telescope had spied signs of water vapor. The discovery would mark the first time that astronomers have ever managed to discern an atmosphere on a rocket planet outside our own solar system. Finding water vapor on a small world would also be a major step forward in the search for habitable planets beyond Earth, because water is essential to life as we know it here on Earth. As we know it here on Earth. An equally likely explanation for the water vapor has thrown ambiguity into the potentially milestone result, however. Spots of magnetic activity on the planet's host star could just as well be the water vapor's source. Ultimately, untangling the mystery will require further observations. The team originally planned to search for signatures of carbon dioxide in rocky planet atmospheres. Using JWST's near-infrared spectrometer instrument, they watched as the planet crossed the face of its star as seen from Earth. What we have talked about earlier, a phenomenon called a transit. This allowed the team to collect a fraction of the starlight that passed through the planet's upper atmosphere, right? Something we talked about earlier, using the light from the two transits of this exoplanet to form a rainbow-like spectrum, a technique called transmission spectroscopy revealed dark absorption lines that, much like a barcode, well, I just sounded Canadian right there, much like a barcode, can be read to reveal water vapor's presence there. Estimated surface temperature of 800 degrees Fahrenheit, comparable to Venus, and certainly not in the range of what would be considered habitable or Earth-like. It orbits so close to its host star that the planet's atmosphere could have easily been eroded long ago by stellar flares and other outbursts. Given such harsh conditions, the study's lead author, Sarah Morin, planetary scientist at the University of Arizona, says she was surprised to see signals indicating atmospheric detections. Initially, the research thought they were seeing water vapor. What are the other explanations? One competing scenario emerged from the fact that red dwarf stars are smaller, dimmer, and cooler than our sun. This means that star spots on their surfaces, dark, highly magnetized regions on all stars that lower temperatures than their surrounding, are especially chilly and can be low enough to sustain the formation of water vapor. In 2018, years before JWST's launch, a team of researchers realized that red dwarf spots could be a troublesome source of contamination that potentially mimics genuine atmospheric signals from accompanying exoplanets. With this in mind, they calculated how well an atmospheric origin explained or fit the water vapor signal versus the fit from a stellar model that presumes star spots. The result was a nearly identical fit for each scenario. Good. That helps us. Statistically speaking, if you want to be as certain as the experts about whether this particular planet harbors water vapor, you can simply flip a coin. Nice. All right. Let's see if there's still more. Should it turn out to be correct that water vapor is coming from the planet and not the star, that would GJ 486b has an atmosphere. And if a planet with such a high surface temperature and perilously close orbit to its host star can maintain an atmosphere, then presumably cooler worlds in more clement orbits should offer even better chances for habitability. Even if it turns out that the star spot are the signal source, Morin says this gives researchers an opportunity to learn more about the magnetic fields and other quirks of stellar astrophysics that allow water vapor to arise on red dwarfs itself. Conducting observations over a much wider wavelength range is the key takeaway. Getting the best data on small rocky exoplanets won't be answered by just one type of observation. I think the combination of obtaining transit and eclipses will give you the most information. We'll keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Right? We'll be watching. NASA, JPL's snake-like EELS slithers into new robotics terrain. Take a look at this thing. This thing is interesting. I saw this posted on, I think I've talked about him on the last one because we did Kerbal Space Program. Matt Lown, I watched him do a video and he had mentioned this, and also previously in the week I saw something on Instagram, a quick clip of this. So I thought this is a cool thing. All right. Called EELS for short, for exobiology, extent life surveyor, self-propelled autonomous robot, was designed to look for signs in the ocean hiding below the icy crust of Saturn's moon Enceladus by descending narrow vents in the surface that spew geysers into space. Well, what happens if it gets in there and a geyser shoots it out? Then it's over. Oh man. Yeah, if that happens, you toast, right? Mission's over. I don't know. It has the capability to go to locations where other robots can't go. Though some robots are better at one particular type of terrain or other, the EELS has the ability to do it all. Okay. Look at this thing. This thing is, well, and I'll show the video of it next. The project team began building the first prototype in 2019. The robot, in its current form, dubbed EELS 1.0, the robot weighs about 220 pounds and is 13 feet long. 10 identical segments that rotate using screw threads for propulsion, traction, and grip. Using a bunch of things. Robot has been put to test in sandy, snowy, and icy environments, from the Mars yard at JPL to a robot playground created at a ski resort in the snowy mountains of Southern California, even at a local indoor ice rink. Because of the communication lag time between Earth and deep space, remember, you're traveling at the speed of light pretty much when sending signals to things on Mars, for example. Like when we land probes on different planets like Mars, we can't send in real time. Like if you are flying a drone, If you were to try and fly a drone and imagine you were able to have perfect connection to it the whole time, it would take you minutes to input something, say, take a left turn here, and for that to get sent all the way to Mars and for that rover to make that left turn. That would take minutes. And when you're trying to move something in real time, say there's a rock that's falling on it or something, you toast because that input's not going to get there for quite some time. That's exactly why this is going to have to think on its own. When something goes wrong, the goal is for the robot to recover on its own without human assistance. EOS creates a 3D map of its surrounding using 4 pairs of stereo cameras and LiDAR, which is similar to radar but employs short laser pulses instead of radio waves. With the data from those sensors, navigation algorithms figure out the safest path forward. The goal has been to create a library of gates or ways the robot can move in response to the terrain challenges, from sidewinding to curling in on itself, a move the team calls banana. In its final form, the robot will contain 48 actuators, little motors that give it the flexibility to assume multiple configurations but add complexity for both the hardware and software teams. All right. Last year, the Eels team got to experience those kinds of challenging spaces when they lowered the robot perception head, the segment with the cameras and LiDAR, into a vertical shaft called a Mallin at Athabasca Glacier in the Canadian Rockies. In September, they're returning to the location, which is in many ways an analog for icy moons in our solar system. Yeah, but what about the geysers? Do we have to worry about those in Canada? I don't think so. I mean, maybe they don't pop off as often as I'm thinking that they do, but I don't know. I feel like what do you do in that? If it gets shot out by a geyser, it's done, right? I don't know. Maybe that's probably something that they thought about, and I'm not thinking of that right now. But if I am, then that's a problem. All right, so let's look at this video right here. Why is the quality so bad? There we go. So as you can see, it is moving fairly slowly, right? There it is on the ice right there. You can kind of see it's different, but that's to see how it's able to move on the ice. Let's go a little bit forward. So you can see these other ones. Yep. I'm assuming this is what's going to be the final edition. It's going to be something like this. Being tested on sand. I don't know why they tested on sand, but okay. Yeah, tested on this ice. Although is the ice going to be this nice on the planet? I don't know. Or the moon, I should say. Look at this thing. This is pretty cool. Able to climb up. And they're not in the final form yet. This is just the beginning, so eventually we'll move autonomously. Let's go back. Yeah. So ultimately you want it to be able to go underwater, right? Artist concept right here. One day explore glaciers on Earth. Steep craters and lava tubes on the moon. And even icy moons like Saturn's Enceladus in our solar system, right? Very cool. Very cool stuff, right? A very cool potential mission. A lot of cool stuff going on here. And speaking about cool stuff, I just want to make a thing. First, let me the coffee is finished, all right? So I'm ready. I'm caffeined up. And there's just some let's just move on to the next subject, right? Uh, how did that get there? Interesting. Really? Oh, I did not know that I had Maxwell case logs show how frequently Trump flew on Epstein jets, Bill Clinton too. Miami Herald. Interesting. Check it out. Check it out. Uh, what's this? Oversight.house.gov. Comer reveals new evidence in Biden family's influence peddling schemes. Interesting. House committee. Okay. James Comer. Okay. Uh, is this the is this the is this the actual docket? Reviewed thousands of oh wow. Whoops. I didn't know I still had that up. Oh, um, I didn't know I had this up either. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Uh, uh, ooh, I didn't mean for that one about Trump. I didn't mean to have that one up about him getting charged and no, I didn't mean to do that. Did not. But if you do want to get some good financial advice, the good old Republicans and Democrats in Congress can help you out. Oh, oh, we got some good names here. Some good names. Anyways, I do all that to tease. These are just jokes, right? There's no way that they don't have your best interest at heart. And both parties are good. Both parties have good people on both sides, right? They're not they're not both bad, right? There's no need for any reform or any changes that need to be had, right? No. Anyways, when you're getting 51%, interesting. Patrick Fallon, Republican from Texas. Debbie Schultz, Democrat from Florida, 50.8% returns. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Sorry about that. I didn't know that any of those documents were there, you know. All right, let's move on to hopefully something that's not going to take too long. I do not know how long we've been going for, but I want to talk about the NBA playoffs before we have the first game of the Eastern and Western Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals. Anywho, let's talk about the first round of the NBA playoffs. And as I'm recording this, Doc Rivers has been fired from the 76ers. That's kind of breaking right now as I record this. All right, but anyways, first round of the playoffs, definitely some going into the series, some upsets, right? Celtics over Hawks, that was a real tough series for the Celtics. I mean, you do look at their first two games, they completely blew them out. Um, but then I thought the Hawks played very well in games 3 and 4. Obviously, they won game 5. But Trae Young was not terrible in the series, right? I believe if you look at his numbers right here, 230 minutes played, almost 30 points, 10 assists, almost 2 steals a game, almost a block a game. I mean, he was not terrible. He shot very, very poorly, 40% from the field, 33 from three. But yeah, it just feels like after Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, they need some other people to step up. John Collins averaged 27 minutes a game, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block. We can't have that. Cannot have that. Jason Tatum, very, very good in this series, and Jaylen Brown, but they have other people who can contribute. Derek White, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, it's not like they have bums out here. Grant Williams, who is somebody who doesn't put up a lot in the stat sheet, but he is a very, very good role player for them. So this first round series was definitely a tough one. But the probably the two biggest ones, Heat over Bucks and Knicks over Cavs. I thought the Cavs would win this series. I didn't really buy the Knicks because I felt like it was mostly just Jalen Brunson. I didn't trust Julius Randle in the playoffs. Um, and I was wrong for that. I mean, overall he wasn't amazing, but he definitely helped them win some games. But Heat over Bucks, I mean, if you just look at this game, it's just that Giannis was injured, was hurt. And it was also mostly due to Jimmy Butler being or having one of the greatest playoff series that I've ever seen with my own eyes. This is like LeBron James in 2018. If you go back, and I please urge you to do so, go back and look at the 2018 playoffs, not the finals, the first round, the second round, and the third round. Against the Celtics, he was ridiculous against the Celtics. And then also that first round series, I think they played the Pacers, and I think they took them 6 games or something. But the first couple games, LeBron was taking it easy, and then he turned it on, and you saw him transform. Now let's look at the stats for Jimmy. 38 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and about half a block in 5 games of work. Now let's look at the difference right here. Here's the difference. Yeah, Chris Middleton wasn't bad. Brook Lopez definitely wasn't bad. Like you look at their scores, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players scoring double digits. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, Giannis, Grayson Allen, and Pat Connaughton. So they had enough scoring, and they did average more points a game than the oh wait, no, I'm wrong about that. I'm wrong about that. No, that I was looking at the wrong stat. That is incorrect. They did not average more points. But what they did do was they had Giannis play 91 minutes, and that is the difference right here. You look at him, 91 minutes. Pat Connaughton played 3 less minutes than him. Joe Ingles played 2 less minutes than him. And when compared to the Miami Heat, it is night and day. Max Strus played more minutes than Giannis. Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Kevin Love, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. Victor Oladipo played half the amount of minutes of Giannis, and I do not remember Victor Oladipo checking into the game. He played 2 games, did not start one. Tyler Hero started one and played in one, 19 minutes. This is I believe he got injured. And Giannis got injured as well. This is the series right here. I mean, you look at Giannis's numbers, 30 minutes a game, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Not good defensively. Um, 53 from the field, but this is like most series, this is a series of there was one player who was ridiculously out of his mind, insane, and by insane I mean insanely good. Shout out to Jimmy Butler, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a playoff series. I really do encourage you to watch the if you have the time, watch the full games, but the highlights of each games. This is one of those things that people will be able to look back on, and not a lot of people will remember it, but I do think that it is something that is worth value and something that should be celebrated. The performance that Jimmy Butler put into this playoff series is very commendable. And I would just wonder, because I don't know too much about basketball. I'd love to know, like, what was it that he saw that allowed him to attack? Because he was attacking, he was going to the rim, he was trying to get fouls. He was also shooting off the dribble, taking outside shots, something that he hasn't been super efficient at. I'm not saying he's bad at it, but his strength is going shooting close to the basket, driving to the basket. I would say that is his strength. His probably the thing that he's best at and the thing that you want him to do the most. But that's my opinion. I obviously I would have to ask him what he thinks about my observation. But amazing series by Jimmy. Scored the most points by Heat in a playoff game. So congrats to him. Knicks, Cavs. This is one where I said, oh, Knicks. Close first game. Not close second game. And then it just felt like not only did the rest of the games just not get feel high scoring at all, this felt like a very slow series. No game went over 110 points, which isn't a lot of points in today's NBA. In game 3, the Cavaliers scored 79 points. The leading scorer in the game was Donovan Mitchell with 22 points. This is an atrocious series. RJ Barrett did play very well in this series, and since then he's dropped off. I mean, look at these shooting numbers. This is not a good 3-point shooting team. 9 of 31 for Jalen Brunson, 6 of 24 RJ Barrett, 8 of 34 Julius Randle. I do not want him shooting that many threes. And looking at it now, I guess I don't want RJ Barrett doing that either. The Cavs, you look at their shooting percentage. This is a very bad shooting. 43%. Donovan Mitchell averaged 23 points a game. 20 points a game by Darius Garland. But he had some games where you're just like, huh? Darius Garland was amazing in game 2. But let's look at game 3. 79 points by the Cavs. Darius Garland, 10 points. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Evan Mobley, 10 points. Karis LeVert, 17. Donovan Mitchell, 22 points. Look at this. They shot 39% from the field in this game. not not good at all. Not a good game at all. You can't have those games in the playoffs where you score 79 and you're just missing all your shots. But shout out to the Knicks. They moved on. And the last series is the Sixers over the Nets. Wasn't super crazy or anything like that, you know. Was not a bad series. Nuggets over Timberwolves. Didn't really think that the Timberwolves really put up any much of a fight. Coming into this, I didn't think the Nuggets were the best team in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously now I would say that they are, and I do believe that they are going to win a title this year. If not them, then the Celtics. But I would not be opposed to potentially seeing a rematch of the Lakers and the Heat. Two underdogs. That would be a good. That'd be a good finals. Although I don't really see it that much, but Nuggets are definitely one of the better teams here. You can see Jamal Murray and Jokic, absolutely phenomenal. Michael Porter Jr. has been a really, really good player for them, and Contavious Caldwell-Pope has also been a good player for them as well, coming off the bench. Oh wait, no, not coming off the bench. That was Bruce Brown. My bad. Contavious Caldwell-Pope has been very good for them. Good pickup for them. Denver Nuggets won this series very, very easily. I would say probably the best first round series was the Warriors and the Kings. I was pretty certain that the Kings would win this series. Going into game 7, I thought it would be the Kings moving on. Game 1, De'Aaron Fox looked absolutely incredible. Incredible. He scored 38 points. And if you watch highlights of that game, the fourth quarter, he went absolutely off, took over the game. They go up 2-0. Then the Warriors come back, win 3 straight games. Then the Kings win another one, send it to a game 7. Let's look at this game 6 box score. De'Aaron Fox, 26, 7 points from Domantas Sabonis. That's not going to help you out that much, but they win the game. Series tied 3-3, and Stephen Curry happens. But let's look at this game. 29 points for Steph, 5 of 12 from 3, 9 of 21 from the field. Game 7, Steph Curry shows why he is one of the greatest, not shooters, but players in NBA history. Steph Curry, 50 points. I think this is the most in a game 7. 7 of 18 from 3, 39%, not great. 20 of 38 from the field, though, so 5 of 26. 3 of 5 from the free throw, which is surprisingly low for him, but an absolutely phenomenal, one of my favorite series. I do recommend you watch the fourth quarter of each of those games, especially that first game. Man, they're good. And I think that this is one of the series that you look back and you say, if they won that game, if the Warriors won that first game, they could have done this in 5. And they would have saved themselves those 2 extra games, which can take a lot out of you. Take a lot out of you. Because if they finish game 5, they're done 4 days earlier. And so they don't have to play the 28th or the 30th. So they get that time to rest. And I think when you are a Warriors team who isn't the youngest team of all time, you're not able to recover as well. And I do think that that carried on into their next series, which I will talk about. But Lakers Grizzlies, one of the more exciting because of the storylines in it. Obviously, Dylan Brooks and LeBron. LeBron here really showed how in certain moments he can still take over the game. I still do worry about his outside shooting because if we look at the series stats right here and look at LeBron's 3-point percentage, he was 8 for 41. You cannot have that. Less than 20% 3-point shooting. You cannot have that. But luckily he had Anthony Davis to help him. And this is one of the best defensive performances I've seen by Anthony Davis, especially in the playoffs. Very, 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 very good. And then you kind of look over at the other side. Ja Morant wasn't anything outstanding, wasn't anything amazing. He played 187 minutes. He was injured in this series, but he still played well enough to help them win. I would like to see a better surrounding cast surrounding him, and I do think that they could potentially become a really good team. But D'Angelo Russell and the rest of the team absolutely blew them out in the final game, and that was a wild, wild series. Suns over Clippers. Clippers just keep getting injured. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know what their strategy or their next step is as an organization. What did they do? They invested so much money into Paul George and Kawhi, and for no fault of their own, they've been injured. Um, they are two players who have had injury histories, and the Clippers must have known that when they signed them, so they took a big risk. And unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't play out. If they were both healthy, though, I think this would have been just as good as the Warriors King series. But unfortunately, just not healthy. And Kevin Durant really looks like one of the best players in the NBA still. Now let's go back to, here we go, playoffs right here. We go to the semifinals. Celtics and 76ers. I had a lot to say. A lot to say. On Twitter, I did put out a tweet that James Harden is the second best player on the 76ers. James Harden scores 45 points in game one, including closing out the game. Absolutely clutch performance by him. He was absolutely phenomenal in the later parts of this game. As a point guard, he's one of the best in the league. On his best nights, he's one of the best players in the league. On his worst nights, he's a average level player. But unfortunately, the Celtics have two guys who it kind of feels like if one is not being as dominant and being incredible, the other can pick up the slack. And that's why I ultimately think that this team is going to go to the finals. Because you have two players who, if they wanted to, they could score 30. But if one wants to score 42, the other can score 25. Or if one scores 24, the other scores 36. So I think it is a team where they both can go off, both have dual 30-point nights. You saw during the season, they were incredible. With that being said, there is a lot to discuss and talk about. One thing that I wanted to mention on the Warriors, I forgot to. Longest series win streaks against interconference opponents in NBA history. From 2015 to 2023, the Warriors won 19 series in the Western Conference. So that's the first round, second round, third round finals, or first round, second round, third round, right? So they are an absolute dynasty. You see before that, Celtics 84 to 88, 14 series, 2011 to 2016 by the Heat, 13. So the Warriors are an absolute dynasty. Forgot to mention that. I'm just looking over some stuff over here. Yep. All right, so Celtics 76ers was a very, very interesting series. Jason Tatum, you kind of saw going into the series. I don't know if he's the best player on the team because he did have some very, very poor performances in the series where he was supposed to be the best player, but he didn't show up. And sometimes it was just his shot wasn't falling, right? I mean, I would like to say no fault of his own, but it kind of is his fault. But still, with that being said, very Very good performance by him. Now, like I said with the Warriors, remember, this is a 7-game series. The Heat, which I will talk about in a second, they did not play in a 7-game series. They played in a 6-game series. So keep that in mind. But anyways, Jason Tatum, fantastic, absolutely phenomenal in the final game. Defensively, Jaylen Brown is probably the guy that I would like to have on defense guarding the other team's best player. I really think that they're a very good, well-rounded team. They have some players off the bench that can score. Um, Derek White, I know he's technically not off the bench, but he is a integral part of what they do, specifically on offense as a shooter. But Jaylen Brown is the second best player on that team. Yes, he's probably their greatest defender. I would take him over Marcus Smart, but still, amazing series. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, phenomenal in this series. I thought they were both fairly consistent. Yes, Joel did miss that one game, and if he had been there, would they have won the series? I still don't think so, but you never know. Maybe. You look at the shooting percentages of the players. Tobias Harris was the highest, 49% almost. 42% James Harden, 42% Joel Embiid, 40% Tyrese Maxey. Those are their shooting percentages. And it's tough to win a lot of games when you have that. But James Harden, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and half a block. Not terrible numbers, but he needs to, if you look at the rest, Joel Embiid then needs to average 30 a game. Right? But I did think James Harden in the big moments in the later parts of the series. I mean, just look at this final game. He just and look at this third quarter as well. That's what decided the game. Boston 33 points, 76ers 10 points in the third quarter. That's what did them in. Up to that point, 23 points Boston, 29 points Philly first quarter. 32 points Boston, 23 points Philly second quarter. But then the big difference was 33 points Boston, 10 points Philly third quarter, and 24 points Boston, 26 points 76ers in the fourth, and that's what did them in. James Harden in a closeout game 7 played the second most minutes, 40 minutes and 49 seconds, 3 of 11, 27%, 20%, 1 of 5 from 3, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, 5 turnovers, 9 points. Now, I will give much of the credit rather than the blame to the Celtics for playing excellent defense on him, but if you're James Harden, you got to find a way to get through that. You got to find a way. Joel Embiid wasn't much better, 15 points. 28% from the field, 5 of 18, 0-4 from 3. That's how you lose the game right there. Your two best players score under 20 points in a must-win game 7. This team will not be going to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I don't think that they'll ever, or not ever, obviously, but in the next 5 years, I don't think they're going to the NBA Finals. I don't know how this changes. I don't know what James Harden is going to do. And as of recording this right now, Doc Rivers has been fired. And this will influence James Harden's decision for what he's going to do this offseason. You have to look. Have to look and see. Player option. 23, 24, $35 million player option. 33 years old. What does he do? What does he do? Does he stay there? Does he leave? I am not sure. But what I do know is that he is open to moving. I'll definitely say that. Potential talks about him going to Houston. Houston could potentially get the young prospect with Victor Wembanyama, who just look him up. Very good player. But continuing on this with the 76ers, Doc Rivers fired. 6-9 record in game 7. I think it's most losses in NBA history in game 7s. I think he's also up there in terms of losing series when he's up 3-1 as well. So ultimately, not a good look, right? But that is the 76ers series. Let's move on to some other series. Wasn't bad, right? It was not terrible. All right, let me go back to playoffs. Yeah, Celtics, Heat, Nuggets, Lakers. Gonna be crazy. Gonna be crazy. Heat over Knicks. This was a very weird series because the Knicks are actually very competitive in this series. And Jalen Brunson, very good. Got to sing all the praises for him as a guy who wasn't the number one guy in Dallas. He was kind of thought of as, yeah, you could be a rotational point guard. At least this is kind of what I thought. But going back to college, he was a very, very good player. But in the NBA, you just maybe hadn't been given the opportunity yet. But a lot of praise to Jalen Brunson. Game 1, the Heat win. And Jimmy Butler in this series was not anything like absolutely crazy, but when it got down to it, when he needed to score, when the games got tight and the games got close, he was the Heat's number one player. And also the Heat just have a very, very solid surrounding team. You look at Max Strus, Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Vin Duncan Robinson also in there. And also Kevin Love hasn't been terrible. He's been much more of a facilitator rather than a scorer, but still has played some marginal minutes and has made a difference. Jimmy Butler also played 5 games in this series as well, 205 minutes. Still second most on the team. He averaged about 41 minutes a game. So that's something to also think of. But if he had played that same clip for all 6 games, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum did in their series, then we might be having a different conversation. But it is something to look at. Final game in this series, the Knicks and the Heat. It got very close towards the end, but the Knicks just made too many mistakes, and I'm not going to put this series. I'm not going to put any blame on Jalen Brunson. You can look at what he did in the series. Let me actually go back. What he did in the series, and he was not terrible. Unfortunately, this team just wasn't hitting their shots. Jalen Brunson averaged almost 43 minutes a game, 31 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal. 50% shooting from the field, about 35% from 3. Was not terrible. He was not the issue. RJ Barrett really stepped it up in this series. Julius Randle stepped it up in this series, but the rest of the roster, nobody scored 10 points or averaged more than 10 points. And I mean, you have some players here. Like you have Mitchell Robinson doing pretty much nothing. 55% from the field, but only attempted 20 shots throughout the entire series. I understand Jalen Brunson
doing this, but you gotta speed up the offense. You gotta let some of these other guys shoot the ball. I need Mitchell Robinson to shoot the ball more. I need twice the amount of attempts here. And take away some of these from people like Quentin Grimes. I don't need him shooting the ball 35 times and Mitchell Robinson shooting at 20. So, and I don't think the Knicks are going anywhere. I think they'll still be good next year, but they do have some things that they have to look at in terms of their roster. Nuggets and Suns. This was a wild series. I was very surprised with this. Nuggets come out game one. They look absolutely unstoppable. Nikola Jokic looks like the best player in the NBA. Same thing after game two. Nuggets won a close one. Low scoring game as well. And then you come back and game three, you're like, is Devin Booker the best player on this team? And also, you just look at the amount of guys that Denver played. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight guys. 7 guys got over 10 minutes. Wow. And they still lost the game. Kevin Durant in this game had 39. Devin Booker had 47. And I think this perfectly illustrates what this series was. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. They did not have a third option, or they did not have like the Miami Heat have, where they have multiple other players who can have like they can score 2 to 3, 4 points a quarter. Like they're slow tricklers. They're not going to pop off and do some things. They'll hit some open shots and they'll do that. The Suns don't have that for whatever reason. And they have TJ Warren, who, if you remember in the bubble, dropped, I believe it was 50 in a playoff game. Obviously, no Chris Paul in this series, so they were severely limited. But I overall thought that this was a very, very good team that ultimately just didn't have a supporting cast around him. But after watching this series, the best shooting guard in the NBA probably is Devin Booker. Reminds me so much of Kobe because he is able to drive and then stop on a dime, rise up and shoot over somebody with like crazy speed. It's very weird to watch. He was phenomenal in this series. Obviously, they weren't able to get it done, but definitely not his fault in the slightest. You kind of look at all of these games by him. Devin Booker, 36 in another game, but it's just the rest of the roster. Landry Shamet scored 19, but DeAndre Ayton, 8 points. This was not a good series for them. It was not. And it's unfortunate that their series ended like this, but you just look at the averages. DeAndre Ayton, how much is he getting paid? Shooting 58%, but 11 points a game, 8 rebounds, a, a block and a steal a game is that's not going to do it, especially against Nikola Jokic, who on the other end can take you out on the perimeter. And maybe this is once again, maybe it's just that Jokic is that much better than Ayton. And he's able to take him out to the perimeter and he's able to take that presence from outside of the paint and pass the ball around and allow those people on the outside to drive in. And also when you have somebody like a Michael Porter Jr., who had some games in here where he was phenomenal. I believe game 7, he might have been their second highest score. He was very, very good in this game, if I'm correct, right? Was it the final closeout game? He did have one game where he was absolutely phenomenal. Let's go to the previous game then. Where is it? Because there was one game where he really showed up. It could have been this game. I'm not sure. But when you have a supporting cast like that, like a certain player on the team who can pull his own weight, like Michael Porter Jr., who, in the grand scheme of things, has not been as consistent as one would like, but he still was fairly good in this series. All right, moving on. I did want to say that if Kevin Durant were to leave, where would he go? And that's a good question. I think one of the possible things for him, and I mean, if you had asked me, would the Nets with Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant get to the finals? Not even win a championship. I would have said, yeah, absolutely. But they just weren't able to get it together. And I don't know what it is. I wonder if it's something that's off the court that I, as a not a regular citizen, but not as an NBA athlete getting paid millions of dollars, I don't know what comes along with that. I don't know when you have three mega superstars like these three players. They all have their own signature shoe. You have three signature shoes on the team. When you have that, what does that do to the team? And you saw with the Mavericks, Luca and Kyrie, two fantastic players. And I thought Kyrie played all right. I didn't see many games. I saw a lot of mostly highlights, but Kyrie's a fantastic point guard, one of the best in the NBA, top 5, top 10. But I don't know. You just look at teams that Kevin Durant goes to, and whether, I mean, besides the Warriors, a team that he's chosen to go to has not performed well. And I really thought that this team could have gone further, but I do put a lot of the, I wouldn't say blame. I just think DeAndre Ayton had to play better in this series. And I do think that is largely in part due to his matchup, particularly Nikola Jokic, who averaged 35, 13, 10, a steal, and a block while shooting almost 60% from the field, 44% from three, 38.5 minutes a game. It's tough to beat that, right? But shout out to the Nuggets. I think they're the best team in the NBA. And I think they're going to win the title. But we'll talk about that later because now we have to talk about the Lakers and the Warriors series. Um, I think if the Warriors in the previous round had actually won the game. Oh, also forgot about this. The Suns fired their head coach Monty Williams, right? Last 8 seasons from 2015 to 2019, the Suns had 4 coaches. Their win percentage was .265, 0 playoff wins, 0 final experiences. Monty Williams from 2019 to 2023, 62.8 win percentage, 27 playoff wins, 1 finals appearance. Now I didn't remember that. I didn't remember that they went to the finals. I'd forgotten about that. That was 2021. That was when Giannis won his ring. You do remember that, right? So next time you talk about Devin Booker, remember they were a solid team and they were right there. They were right there. But the Bucks that year were phenomenal, amazing. But there was 27 playoff wins by Monty Williams, second in franchise history. But he has been fired. So who knows what happens to them next year. But speaking about this year, the Lakers and Warriors, this is a series that went back and forth. And this is one of those series where it really kind of exposed some of the pros and cons of the Lakers. The Warriors, I felt coming into this series, were tired from their previous series. That 7-game series, very hardly fought in the first round. LeBron James in this series shot better from three. Anthony Davis had some really good performances in this series. He's averaged 22, 15, 3, two steals, two blocks. I mean, he was fantastic. D'Angelo Russell, I feel like has been one of the when you need somebody to go one on one, he's been particularly from the outside probably the best Lakers player. You do have players like LeBron as well as Austin Reeves who have also been able to create via isolation. If the play just breaks down, you just need a guy one on one get a basket. Austin Reeves and LeBron have been there, but so has D'Angelo Russell. But defensively, one of the best teams. I do think they do have some issues with D'Angelo Russell, although there were possessions where he was able to really lock down. But they had people like Jared Vanderbilt. They brought guys off of their bench to guard Steph Curry, and that worked out really well. And then you have Lonnie Walker, who had, if you remember that one game where he really helped out and he helped them win. And the Lakers ultimately showed that they are pretty much the dynasty feels like it's over, right? See, in a closeout game, Lonnie Walker, 4 of 8, 3 of 5 from three, 13 points, 5 fouls. Just all he came in to do was just bring them points. But you look here, Klay Thompson, 3 of 19, 16% from the field, 2 of 12 from three, 17% from three, 8 points. He was a liability, but I don't fault him because though the shots he were taking just weren't falling, and maybe that's because the Lakers defense was so good. But in a game like this, you're gonna to have your your guys show up. I mean, look at the effective field goal percentage. Warriors 44% compared to the Lakers 60%. That's not gonna help you win many games. But with that being said, the Lakers are now going to the Western Conference Finals, and I do wonder, does LeBron have it in him to go to the finals? Can this Lakers team win 2 games against the Nuggets? I don't know. Anthony Davis versus Jokic. LeBron's not guarding Murray. No, there's no way. He's not gonna on certain possessions he will. If it gets to a game 7, he probably will. But are the Lakers at this point thinking, we're kind of an older team with some young guys? Is D'Angelo Russell really going to be your third leading scorer? What is Austin Reed? Is Austin Reed still going to continue to be a reliable option? Is LeBron's 3-point shot going to continue to get better, or will he finally not be able to because he's probably going to get matched up against a guy like Michael Porter Jr. or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's previously on the Lakers? I really don't see that the Lakers could really make a huge case against the Nuggets. I just don't see it. And with the Celtics and the Miami Heat, I don't see how Miami could push it to 7, but I do not see Miami winning the series just because I feel like they're going to need too many games of Jimmy Butler giving his all. But I can potentially see a couple of games where Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum uh don't work and they could steal a game or so. But with that being said, I think in this next upcoming series, Denver Nuggets probably winning, like I said, 5 to 6 games against the Lakers. I will be very surprised if the Lakers win this series and make it to the NBA Finals. I will applaud LeBron James for that, as he should be, and I will just kind of reflect on LeBron James in a second here. But in the Eastern Conference, Miami Heat, Boston Celtics. I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's 6 games. I'm gonna stay pretty content on 6. I don't think the Celtics are that much better than the Heat, just because the Heat as a team, the sum of all of their parts, they're a better team. They have a lot better bench depth and guys who can come out and help you out when you need it. The Celtics are a lot more top heavy. They do have some guys on their team that can really help you out. Derek White is one who I talked about. Malcolm Brogdon as a defensive player is fantastic. But is it enough to make this a quick series? Because at this point in the playoffs, you're gonna want to, especially if you're a team like the Lakers, you're gonna want to finish this thing up quickly. And hopefully for the Lakers' sake that they can. They can win this series. If they win this series in 7 games and say the Celtics win in 5 or 6, I think the Celtics will win the NBA championship. But if the Nuggets win and say the Celtics win in 6 games in the same scenario, I think the Nuggets win. Now, will I be correct? Who knows? But I do want to shift now and reflect on LeBron James and kind of talk about just a little bit of an appreciation of LeBron James, because I am somebody who was born in 1998. I obviously did not get to see Michael Jordan play live ever in my life. I have watched a good amount of whole NBA Finals games that he's played in, and many highlights of him. And I've read a book about him. I forget the name of the book, but it was an autobiography or a biography on Michael Jordan that kind of talks about his entire career and his life from high school through college through the NBA. And it was very good. But a lot of times you get stuck in the GOAT debate, and I've gotten involved in it as well. And I will stand relatively firm and say that I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player that I've ever seen. And the reason for that is partly due to my bias. I prefer to watch Michael Jordan play the off the dribble pull up jump shots with the guy right in your face, the fadeaways, the 3 pointers, the ball handling. I mean, the high right, the obviously the dunks, all of that stuff. But I also think that he did it at a time in the 90s and did it at a level that is comparable to LeBron in terms of the spectacle, and what Michael Jordan was to the sporting world is comparable to what LeBron James is now. The amount of pressure and the amount of stress with everything on social media, everything that's on LeBron today was on Michael Jordan back then. And I think one of the things about Michael Jordan and LeBron that is similar is that they both came back and they reinvented themselves. If you remember, famously, Michael Jordan retired. And in that span, the Houston Rockets won 2 straight championships. Now, if you ask players on the Houston Rockets, if they played the Bulls, they would have beat them. That's their opinion. I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong. But once Michael Jordan came back, they didn't win another title, right? So I think it is interesting to view LeBron as he's almost 40 years old and his ability to take over in playoff games at this age and have done it for so long. I mean, earlier I talked about his 2018 championship run. And I just wanted to take a second and honor LeBron and thank him for all the entertainment.
I know you almost every press conference.
And of course, we're going to get an ad. We're going to get an ad. That's of course it's going to happen, right? Yeah, we got an ad. Of course. Of course, we get an ad. But in the meantime, while that is playing, all right, we are back. Final thing I want to say before I play the video again. It's close between MJ and LeBron. It's close. And you can easily make an argument for either.
some kind of question about LeBron, but after this 4-year run, can you put into words as a coach and an
2018 NBA Finals. So this is it.
opponent what
This is after Game 4.
the pressure he puts a team on as far as the runs that he can make, especially in 2016, but just
3-1 NBA Finals. I remember watching that. Crazy.
how tough he is to game plan against and play against.
Well, he's terrifying. Yeah, he really is. Every time he comes down the court, getting downhill, you just know he's either going to get to the rim or he's going to find one of his shooters for a 3-point shot.
Which is different than what Michael Jordan would do.
He's added the 3-point threat. When we came here 3 years ago in the first meeting, we weren't fearful of his shot. We were,
for good reason. I mean, if you look at this NBA playoffs, the first couple of rounds, LeBron, you wouldn't fear his outside shot either. But in 2018, he was on another level.
fearful of his power and his penetration and his passing. But now you fear everything. And I think maybe the greatest testament to LeBron is that, 5 years ago, he was one of the top 5 players of all time. And from 5 years ago till
Part of the equation when LeBron was in Miami and then when he went back to Cleveland, I think Miami, athletically, he was maybe better than Michael Jordan. He was 6'9", 250 pounds, was one of the strongest players in the NBA, but was also one of the fastest and quickest. Vertical like crazy. So defensively, he was a lockdown defender. And if he wanted to, he could pretty much block anybody's layup that he wanted to. Absolute freak athlete. And there's many stories about him injuring like his ankle or something like that, or like tweaking a knee or something like that. And then boom, a couple hours later, he's back. So just an incredible athlete. And then once he gets back to Cleveland, after going to Miami, he learned a couple of things there. And then that's when he really changed from a super athletic freak into a older, more wiser basketball player.
now it seems like he's 10 times better because he's added so much skill to his game. And
In Miami, one of the things he worked on was his post game, and he improved that once he got back to Cleveland.
I get asked all the time about, MJ, LeBron, and it's such a difficult question to ask. All I know is they're the two best players that I've ever witnessed. They're very different, but however you want to rank them, they're right there together.
And obviously,
Absolutely, 100%. And now I want to take a second to talk about that other player that he was talking about in Michael Jordan. Absolutely, positively. The greatest performance that I've seen, all things considered. Remember, this is 1993, right? When this is happening, okay? Bulls versus Suns. 6 games. Michael Jordan proved that he is the greatest player to ever put his hands on a basketball. Certainly the greatest scorer of a basketball we've ever seen. There's Wilt, there's Kobe. No. It's Michael Jordan. Able to take over a game and completely stop the other team. He was so captivating. He would go on runs himself, much like a Kobe, much like a LeBron could. If you remember LeBron's early career against the Detroit Pistons, that run that he went on by himself, yes, MJ did that in this series. You just look up 31 points, 42 points, 44 points, 55 points, 41 points, 33 points. Michael Jordan was absolutely phenomenal. And he also had help around him as well. B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant. Horace Grant was fantastic for Michael Jordan because defensively he was one of their best players. And he was by far their best defensive interior player. And then obviously Scottie Pippen on the defensive side was amazing as well. But Michael Jordan, 46 minutes a game, 41 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Shooting 51% from the field, 40% from 3, 70% from the line, though, which is interesting. But just an absolute phenomenal performance by Michael Jordan. And like I said, he did have some help, but he was fantastic. And it wasn't like the other team, the Suns, were bad either. Yeah, obviously the number one guy you're going to look at is Charles Barkley. But Dan Marley and Kevin Johnson are no people to sniff at. And then Richard Dumas was also fairly good in this series as well, playing 160 minutes, averaging 16 points a game. So less than 30 minutes a game, averaging 16 points. So he was fairly good in the game as well. And I think, yeah, Tom Chambers was much older at this point, so he wasn't as good. Danny Ainge was a smart player, but he wasn't as good. But you knew Charles would be really good in this series, and he was. 27 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. 25% from 3, 48% from the field. Kevin Johnson, 42% from the field. And Dan Marley, 44% from the field. Richard Dumas, 57 from the field. So you kind of see the impact of Michael Jordan defensively. And to kind of close out the series, Michael Jordan put together a fantastic performance. And as you can see in game 4, quite possibly one of his greatest games ever, especially statistically. You kind of see what made Michael Jordan Michael Jordan. 32 points from Charles Barkley, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double by Charles Barkley, but they lost by 6 points. Bulls go up 3-1. 55 points, 57% from the field, 21 of 37 for Michael Jordan, 13 of 18 free throws, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover. He completely took the game over, and he also had some help. Scottie Pippen, 7 of 14. Horace Grant, 7 of 11. Both of them 14 and 17 points apiece. B.J. Armstrong helped him out as well. This is going to be game 6 right here. Let's watch. One minute, 4 seconds. Game 6. The Bulls. A minute and 4 seconds. 94-98. Bulls are down 4. What does Michael Jordan do? Time's coming off the clock. Michael has the ball with 43 seconds left. What does he do? What? Coast to coast, just nobody decides to guard him. Interesting. 38 seconds. '96, '98. 30 seconds left. What happens here? Barkley, 1-on-1. Open shot, misses it. Wasting time off the clock, the Suns are.
that it was a violation. When Michael Jordan came up with the basketball, he put up
Yeah.
the
13 seconds. Game 6, 1993 NBA Finals. Look at Michael Jordan. What you gonna do? What you gonna do in this moment? Let's see. After these commercials, this is actually the actual broadcast from the game. And I will say about this particular series, Magic Johnson was one of the color commentators. Very good. Very good. I actually liked his commentary. It's very cool to hear that. So shout out to him. Now let's get back into the game. Both teams one timeout left.
rebound. However, the Suns was a the game on fifth, sixth of their
Missed 6 of their last 7. They got to hit one now. Now's their shot. Does Charles Barkley get the ball here? Who gets the ball? Who's got the hot hands? I mean, we saw Charles Barkley pass up. Yeah, it was a good pass. That was a good pass, though. It was a good play. It was just the guy just didn't hit the shot. Michael Jordan has scored all 9 points for the Chicago Bulls in the fourth quarter. "11 seconds." What does Michael Jordan do? What does he do? John Paxson. Wide open 3-point shot. Great play by the Bulls here. Is that the game? Phoenix is hurt. Hurt. Watch this. Horace Grant to Paxson. He's pumped up. 12 points in the fourth quarter. 9 by Michael Jackson. Michael Jordan, sorry. John Paxson adds another 3. And the Bulls, it appears, have won their 3rd straight championship. Doesn't that hurt? Doesn't that hurt? Michael Jordan, one of the greatest players in NBA history, is quite an understatement.
from Michael Jordan as they kick it back out.
Big time shot. I wouldn't say he got saved by Paxson because guess who scored the rest of the points in the fourth quarter? Michael Jordan. Most 3-point field goals in a game in a finals. 10. Game 6. of the 1993 NBA Finals. 10 3-pointers were made. Wow. Compare that to today.
Plenty of time for Phoenix to put it on the ball. Take it to the basket, create a shot.
Let's skip forward and see what we got. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Greatness. Greatness. So to bring it all the way back, right? Is Michael Jordan the best basketball player in the universe? Is LeBron James the best basketball player in the universe? I'm not sure. Could there be a planet 300 light years away or 300 million light years away that has life on it, where they have developed this game of basketball? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we don't want to know. But what I do know is that you should absolutely go watch some of those performances by Michael Jordan. When it comes to closeout games and Michael Jordan needing to win in the NBA Finals, he was the best there is. And yes, Horace Grant blocking that shot helped. John Paxson hitting that shot helped, but Michael Jordan in the fourth quarter, 9 points, was the entire offense for the Bulls there. And he was able to get them into that position. And if you watched the previous games, he was just as good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you watch next time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.